backcountry Colorado, hiking, backpacking.
I did a lot of marathons. I was convinced to do some ultras.
Climbing, and I do filming and photography.
I just like the ultras because I love the community. I just think that everybody is so nice, whether they're the first place finishers or, you know, us that kind of mosey along.
Welcome to Dispatch Radio. I'm Laurie Nakauchi, and I'm here at Skirt Sports with my co-host Kelly McConnell and our tech wizard Corey Fain. So if you're new to Dispatch, we're a Colorado-based podcast, and we feature dispatches from the outdoor field in Colorado. And today, we were so lucky to be part of Nicole DeBoom's Skirt Sports Tuesday Women Run the World. And Nicole was gracious enough to host us here at Skirt Sports. And since the weather's getting colder and we just had this great community event, our focus is on running communities. So you're going to hear from a variety of women about running communities. And these communities are not just for women, but we thought since we were at Skirt Sports at a Women Run the World event, it would be great to have all women guests. So I'm going to start out with our host, Nicole, and you can tell us a little bit about this beautiful space and about Skirt Sports.
Hey, thanks for coming out. What an awesome night. Okay, so we called these second Tuesday events Women Run the World for a reason. It's because we do. We're awesome. I just truly believe in the power of bringing women together and connecting, and on all levels. And it starts sometimes on a real basic level, even with your fitness and your running. It's that accountability. I'm not going to get out of bed. I'm not going to get out the door unless I have someone to go meet. It's that first connection, right? So we find that when we're running, we find it in business. It's about bringing people together in positive ways, and then we are all elevated. So thank you for coming out today. You're actually sitting in our very first ever flagship store. I started Skirt Sports in 2004. We can get into all that good stuff at some point if you want, but it took us 12 years to open a retail store, and I'm so glad I did. How cool is this place?
It's
awesome.
amazing.
So cool. So thank you.
So I'm going to just go around and briefly introduce our guests, and then we'll get in depth about each of their backgrounds. So we have Silke Koester, and she's an ultra runner and with the Rocky Mountain Runners. And then Ilene Bloom, who we heard from before on our self-propelled adventures. So if you didn't get to hear that, you can hear more about Ilene. But Ilene's an ultra runner, and she runs a lot with the Front Range Cross Country group. Next up, we have Jenn Coker. Jenn is actually responsible for connecting us with Nicole. She's a Skirt Sports ambassador. You might see her in some of the ads. She's got the beautiful, bright smile.
I couldn't stop touching her butt.
You'll have to check out the photos because she makes all the skirts and tights look great. And Jenn runs a lot with the Ultra Dirt Divas, also with the Skirt Sports ambassadors. So. And then we have Melissa Hoskins, who is, I won't reveal her secret power. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but she's involved with a group that is near and dear to my heart, the Colorado Columbines. So I want to start with Silke. So Silke, I know a little bit about you, but I know that you have a really cool title, right? You're a Rocky Mountain ringleader with the Rocky Mountain. And then you just got back from Japan from what was supposed to be the Mount Fuji 100, but it turned into a marathon. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thank you. I did just get back from Japan. We got back a week ago. My husband and I had the opportunity to go run the UTMF, which is the Ultra Trail Mount Fuji. Unfortunately, Japan has been getting hammered and hammered and hammered by typhoon after typhoon. So it was raining for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then raining some more the day of the race, and then an even bigger storm hit, so there were weather advisories and mudslides and landslides, and it wasn't safe. So the race director had to make the call, waited until the last possible second to see if the weather would break, but unfortunately it didn't. So we found out as we were standing at the starting line that it was going to be, basically a marathon. And when your brain has been tuned in, running 100 miles is all about your head, where your head is. You have to be so committed to just this monumental task. So there was just a flurry of panic. You'd think we'd all be relieved, but it was just kind of like can I even run 44 kilometers? What is that like? But I was glad just to have the opportunity to even get to run that. And it was fantastic, even if it was just a tiny little bit.
So we were talking about the required gear list a little bit before. So can you walk us through a little bit of that? Because it sounded like it was pretty extensive.
Yeah, so a month before UTMF, I ran UTMB, which is the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc in Chamonix. And that race, similar to UTMF, has an extensive required gear list that you have to carry with you at all times. I'm typically more of like a minimal ultra runner. I don't like to run with backpacks and just, a sort of simple hydration bottle stuck in the back of my skirt or shorts or pants. And so I had to actually train with a heavy backpack to get used to having to carry all of this gear. And I just kept laughing looking at the UTMF gear list because one of the requirements in the list of things said poison remover. And that, in addition to the portable toilet that was also on the list, were just, very interesting requirements, more than just your average raincoat and gloves. And there was no elaboration on what this poison remover meant. And I asked people who'd been to Japan, and I was like, what kind of poison? Like, are we talking about frogs or snakes or plants? Nobody really knew. And when I got to Japan, it was, 24 hours in. One morning we were staying at a friend's parents' house outside of Tokyo, and I had just gotten out of the shower, and I was looking out the window into this beautiful garden, and there was this thing hovering over this tree, and it was huge. And so I kind of screamed and called my husband and called our friend's mom, and she started screaming things in Japanese, and there was a lot of and it was a hornet, and it was like the size of my thumb. So it's a giant Japanese hornet. And if you've ever read The Oatmeal, they do a segment on the hornets and running in the hillsides of Japan. So they're pretty terrifying. So the poison remover, we found out when we were there, is for the hornets, and we saw a lot of hornets. Oh. But we didn't have to use it.
You didn't have to use it.
They were a little afraid of the landslides as well, I guess.
Well, and I'm curious about the portable toilet.
Yeah.
How do you carry one of those in your pack?
So it's actually surprisingly small. It's like a human poop bag, basically. And I actually thought it was a really good idea. Unfortunately, I saw a lot of poor bathroom etiquette at UTMB, so I was actually kind of happy to see sort of this requirement for UTMF. And when these races are so big, they're so much bigger than any ultra in the States, where you might have 30 people to maybe 250 people, 300 people tops. These races are, UTMB is almost 2,500 people. UTMF is almost 1,500 people. It's a lot of people on the trail for a really long time.
A lot of poop.
Yeah, and a lot of business happening. So, so we had to carry those.
I see a business idea in that making. Anyone wants to take that on?
Yeah, they were surprisingly small.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they work.
I didn't get a chance to try it, but I still have them, and I'm going to try them.
I think you should
like
buy
walking around the dog park. You just carry it.
Yeah. You could start selling
Special
them here.
pocket.
Yeah,
So
Well, yeah, you only ran a marathon.
I know.
You didn't have to use it.
No, who needs to poop in a marathon?
Yeah. Poor Jen.
Someone
Jen raised her
their
hand. So I brought Silke on because Silke runs with the Rocky Mountain Runners, and she has an extensive resume of winning races, and but the Rocky Mountain Runners are a really open, welcoming group, and so the way I know is a friend of mine went, and she was. She kept saying, I was the slowest person, but at every intersection they waited. And she's like, it was dark, and there were people who waited for me. So, and she even said Silke helped her. It was a snowy run, and she's not great in downhilling in the snow, and she said you gave her tips. So can you talk about the Rocky Mountain Runners and the runs you do and how people can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I ended up in Colorado, I lived in New York. And New York, actually, believe it or not, has a really thriving and really amazing running community. There's just people running all the time, probably because they're so stressed out all the time. But there's just hundreds of running clubs, and there's all kinds, everything from super competitive to just drinking clubs that kind of run to everything in between. So I joined a running community there and just absolutely loved it. Met all of my friends, met my husband. It was just this family. So then we moved to Colorado, and we're kind of looking for the same thing, and didn't quite find exactly what we sort of wanted or what we had left in New York. So we just decided we would start it. So our philosophy is, we're not a coached program. We're not a company. We don't have any membership dues. We believe that you shouldn't have to pay to run, with awesome people in awesome places. So we kind of just support one another and just get together and run year round on the trails and sometimes on the roads, but mostly on the trails. So we run in Boulder. We also have a run in Golden on Friday mornings, but we run during the week. We have formally organized group runs on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then on the weekends, it's just sort of ad hoc whenever anyone has some ridiculous idea.
And they're hardcore. Like, I know, like, days it's been pouring or snow, there'll be 2 or 3.
All the time, no matter
great.
what. Somebody's always out there, which makes it easy, like you were saying, when it's cold and dark. It's good to get out of bed because someone else is going to be out there as well.
Well, and what's great is they have green shirts. So we call them the Sea of Green. You go to races, you see the Rocky Mountain runners, and honestly, they're usually at the front of the pack, but they're so welcoming and, just such a great group. So.
Yeah, running is, our tagline, I think it says on our shirts, it says, this isn't training, this is living. And while in general, we do have some pretty strong runners, it's not about the competition, it's not about the speed, it's just about getting out there and getting to, like I said, run in awesome places with awesome people and just challenge yourself, whatever that means. We like to race a lot because there's just a really cool sense of community in races, as we all know. So you'll see us traveling in hordes of green. We call ourselves Gang Green. And I think that's the cool thing about, you don't have to be anything, just, all wear the same shirt. There's just a power and community and being part of something. And it's something as silly as wearing the same colored shirt or wearing the same colored socks, or just meeting at the same time every week and running something together that really sort of unifies people.
Or wearing the same color skirt.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're in the Boulder, Golden area, check out the Rocky Mountain Runners, and you'll be guaranteed to have a good time with them. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Silke. Next up, we have Ilene. And so Ilene is not only the blogger for Dispatch Radio, she is an ultra runner. So you can go to her blog and read about some of her ultra running adventures. And Ilene has been running with the Front Range Cross Country group, that you can find primarily on Facebook. Right. So Ilene, will you tell us a little bit about Front Range Cross Country?
Sure. Well, I think I was in the right place at the right time because I had heard that there was another runner that was in my same line of work. And so I actually reached out to him, and it was Chris Harrington, who has started Front Range Cross Country. So that's how I learned about it to begin with. And they do have a Facebook page and a website. And so they have Wednesday night runs every Wednesday night, usually at Green Mountain, but now we're starting to alternate to different locations on the other Wednesday. And what I like about that is, I think we all know we're going to run on the weekends and maybe in the mornings, but I think it's really nice to have something to look forward to in the middle of the week, and that we're going to see these same people every week in the middle of the week, that keeps us going until we can get to the weekend to do our, grand adventure of running. So I really like that about it. And also, how I feel is that a lot of the people that I've met are people that I feel like I would have been friends with anyways. It's not just situational through running. There's really good energy. Everybody is very supportive of each other, and there's sort of this undercurrent of fun. And so not only do they have the runs, but for instance, this past Sunday, there was it was called the Evergreen Mean Machine 50K, an informal group run. You can come and do You can part say or fat all. ass. Yeah, come or do, part or all. But it was just really fun to see people in different scenarios and who's going to come and who's going to do what, and everybody supports each other. And then the other thing, similar to Rocky Mountain Runners, is, there's been traveling as a group. It's really fun, especially for me to go somewhere and know that I'm going to see these people that I run with in another state. It's so fun to travel with other people, and they're there to cheer you on and support you. It's been really great.
So what are the places that you've traveled because I know Front Range Cross Country, they have been at some of the big races, but what are some of the ones you've been at and some of the events?
Well, so far, I met up with this crew in Bighorn, in the Bighorn Mountains. I love that race. And I know that they've gone to Moab for one of the Mad Moose runs and are going back in November for Dead Horse. And so I already, hear about some people are running, some people are just going to support, some people are excited to camp. And so I think I'll probably go for that in some fashion. And then I think, there's just talk about, next year and the future. And, nothing is set in stone, but it's kind of nice to know that everyone will be planning something and not just this one time.
And Jenn mentioned Fat Ass, because this was the Evergreen Run was what's called a Fat Ass. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because I know Front Range, they do some, and they've done some in some incredibly terrible weather in the winter, which it's hard to get out. But knowing there's a group out there who's got a course set up and you won't be alone helps. So can you explain a little bit about what the Fat Ass concept is? And because I know that's where I met you at some of.
So my understanding is, it's just informal. It's not a race. You don't have to pay. Everybody brings some junk food, basically, hopefully some beer for the end. And you just meet at a specific time. Somebody has mapped out the route. And you just meet, Sunday morning, 7 a.m., and let's go. And then you just run this route or part of the route. And that's that. It's informal, and obviously it's not a race. It's not competitive.
So quickly, before we move on, what's up next for you?
For me, I am going to Arizona in 2 weeks to attempt my first 100K.
To do your first 100K,
Yes.
not attempt.
To run my first 100K.
Javelina?
That's correct.
Good luck.
Thank
You're going to
you.
do great. Yeah. So thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Next up, we have someone who I think epitomizes the word community, Jenn Coker. And Jenn's involved in the skirt sports community, but also has really been instrumental in a Facebook group called the Ultra Dirt Divas, which is a women's-based Facebook group. And she has set up some runs called the Jenn Runs. But I've seen Jenn out, bringing people into running in the best, most positive way. So before we start, though, Jenn, talk a little bit about your running background and some of the things you've been up to lately.
Well, I've been running pretty much my whole life, so you'd think I'd be much better at it. So I just love running, and I really don't care how good I am at it. I've been really good at running in the past. I've been really bad at running. Right now, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
How can you be bad at running? You're running. I mean, that's all that counts, right? There's no good or bad.
Oh, I fall down a lot.
That's okay.
But the thing I like most about running is meeting new people. People laugh at me because I do not stop talking when I'm running. And maybe I would be a better runner if I would stop talking, but that's not what it's about for me. So that's running equals community for me. And, I'd like to talk about running. I like to talk to people about running. And, I like for people to be as excited about it as I am. So all of the different groups, I grew up in Georgia, if you can't tell by the accent. And when I moved out to Colorado, I had some great running groups back in Georgia. I ran with the Guts Runners out of Atlanta, the Yeti Trail Runners out of Atlanta, and both groups have some elite, awesome runners that just hang out and drink beer with everybody at the end and, give running tips or just whatever. So when I moved out here to Colorado, I was really excited to find that same sense of community. And like Silke said, it wasn't quite here yet. Running is fairly new. Trail running is fairly new to Colorado. And And so, I was like, well, let's just do this, like Silke said. And so I've been running with both the Skirt Sports Group, and I've met some really amazing women. There's not as big of a trail running and ultra running component to the Skirt Sports Groups, but we're getting there. We're talking a lot of women into running their first ultras or their first trail race. I can think of just last weekend, there was a race down in Castle Rock, and there were at least 3 people that ran their first trail race there. All Skirt Sports, people I've met through Skirt Sports. And then the Ultra Dirt Divas is a group that split off from another bigger running group. And it was a place for women to go where they had a safe place to talk about things they didn't want to talk about in front of guys.
Yeah, in fact, some of the things that came up, nursing and, all those things.
Exactly,
Hormones.
nursing, periods, boobs, clothing. What do you do with your hair?
Yeah.
Do you braid your hair? Do you put it in ponytails? Do you wear a hat? Stuff like that you don't want to talk about in front of guys. And also, a lot of women coming into trail running are scared to go run on the trails by themselves. So it's a safe place where women can find other women who are comfortable on the trails and go have fun and meet people. And the Jenn's runs kind of started, there was one day, I set up, we take turns. Hey, I would need to run 15 miles this weekend, so who wants to meet at this trailhead at this time? And that day, there were 4 of us named Jennifer, all running, so we called it the Jenn's Run. And then the next time, we set up another race, or another run, and we gave everybody Jenn names, because, so it would be Jenn Laurie, Jenn Melissa, Jenn Eileen.
We all strive to be an honorary Jen.
Yes,
so
you're
we gotta come
an
to our
honorary Jen if you come do the Jenn's Run. So it just kind of turned into a thing. And it's all about having fun. There's no set pace. We always take it casual. I love to take pictures. It's how I take my breaths. It's how I breathe. It's like, hey, look, this is pretty. And then I catch my breath, and then we keep going. So, and then we usually go drink beer or wine or something after.
Yeah, it's a great group. Well, and I have to give a shout out to Andrea Reese, because she started the the Ultra Dirt Divas, and it was a great chance for women to get out there and to post their runs and to feel that sense of community, and it's really grown. So
absolutely. Yeah. There are weekday morning runs, weekday afternoon runs. You can find somebody to run with any time of the day on Ultra Dirt Divas, if you're a lady.
Yeah, thank you.
We
Jen.
welcome men too. You just have to be prepared to talk about stuff you may not want to talk about.
Thank you, Jen. So next up, I have Melissa Hoskins. And Melissa has a unique endeavor coming up, and I'll let her talk a little bit about that. But Melissa runs with a group that is really close to my heart, the Colorado Columbines. And this is an all-women's group. And when I started running, I found the Columbines, and they inspired me to run my first marathon and actually helped pay for my first ultramarathon. So I've met some of my closest friends through the Columbines. And so, Melissa, before we start talking about the Columbines, will you talk a little bit about your Guinness Book of World Record attempt that's coming up?
It's my attempt. So I'm going to be going for the fastest female marathon as a vegetable, and I'm going as a beet.
Yeah.
I
and she's wearing a beet shirt.
I eat them like almost every day, and I'm a fanatic. So I originally was going to do a Guinness on the treadmill, but that record kept getting broken, and the miles kept getting higher. So kind of tapped out on that one. So instead, I'm like, I'm going to go as a beet. I'm at the Monumental Marathon in Indianapolis on November 5th. So I have to beat the carrot is what I'm going for. So I know it's so ridiculous.
intended.
And I'm like, I love attention. So I'm actually going to be doing the Denver half this weekend in costume and giving it a go.
Oh, you've got to give us pictures.
Of course. Yes, please. So yes, it's Helen from the UK. And it was back in 2012. So it's time to beat that record.
What? Tell me about the costume.
Yeah.
That record.
She's good with the puns.
And if you have songs to suggest that have a good beat or anything of the sort,
Beat
please.
it.
That's a gimme.
Give me a beat.
That's a gimme. So send them my way. So it's actually the costume I have. It's an orange, but I'm just going to dye it because I like the shape of it. So I did 4 miles on the Platte the other day just to kind of test it. So it kind of looks like a pumpkin also. So it'll be perfect for Denver.
What about the beet greens?
I might have them little hat sprouty or something like that. So yeah.
I have a great wig you could use. It looks.
But I need it to be, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
It'll work. It'll all work out.
Weekend?
The Denver half is, on Sunday. Yeah.
So you need to get on that costume.
I already have it. It's getting modified. I have a friend she's a runner and a seamstress, so making some modifications. Kind of, yeah. But I'm gonna have it tucked a little bit just because it was like really kind of far out.
What's it made of? I'm curious.
Polyester.
Polyester. So you're hoping for colder weather?
A little bit, yeah.
But Polly's wicking.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I was thinking.
Natural.
And I might have to
performance
put some like air vents in it. I don't know. I think it'll be fine though. So
You need some of these skirt sports
probably
bras and shirts that match.
Some matching like
the
some
color.
purple
Yeah.
tights or something. So
What is the actual time record you have to beat?
Helen, I'm gonna beat 3:47. So
You've
And
got
Helen was a carrot.
Helen was a carrot.
Okay.
Yeah. So
beats rule.
and I'll be at sea level, so that's helpful. So yeah, that's my upcoming
Most
adventure.
importantly, are you going to have a beet smoothie before the marathon?
That is not a good pre-run food for me.
Terrible.
Maybe after.
And when I first met you, we talked about you need a sponsor. There's like all these beet juice performance drinks. So
But
maybe
they're so high in
afterwards.
sugar. Anyway, so
Maybe afterwards.
So, and I just got to the wayside. So anyway, so that's what's coming up.
What do you get if you beat the record?
My name in a book.
Yeah.
Right? Big time.
Attention.
Yeah.
So have you had something for the Guinness Book of World Records since you were a child?
No, this was kind of I originally. I don't mind the treadmill. I'm a fair weather runner, so I'd be on the treadmill a lot. And then, I'm drawing blank now. He had set the 12-hour men's treadmill record last year. Gosh, I'm going blank. So, anyways, I'm like, well, I wonder what the women's record is. So I had actually been training for that, and got up to about 6 hours. And then, but like I said, the record just kept getting higher and higher. Like, I don't love the treadmill that much. So anyway, so then a friend suggested this.
You're in with some good company. I listened to Ian Sharman, and I don't know if he still does, he used to have the record for running the male marathon in a movie costume. He did Gladiator, and he tried for the Elvis record at the Las Vegas Marathon, but it was high wind, so he didn't get that. But I did think he had a vegetable
There's a
fruit one.
gazillion records out there.
He had like 3 of them. So you're in there with good company. So talk to us a little bit, too, about the Columbines Running Club, because they're a women's running club out of Littleton.
But it's well at like Denver Metro. So actually, this has been around since 1978. So it's an amazing group of women. When I first moved out here in 2007, I'm like, I need to find some people or this is going to go south fast. So I've been on the board since like 2008, I think, in various positions. Gosh, we have like around like 250 members all around the metro area. A lot of us are on the Littleton, Lakewood, West Side. So we have like a $30 annual membership, but we offer track. On Saturdays, we have a supported long runs from various locations. On Sundays, there's a group of women that meet at just walk for an hour and then they go to Panera. So it's a little more casual. The whole group, it's amazing how this many women we make these wonderful friendships. So this Saturday, it's the Distance Divas, kind of a subgroup of our Columbines. So we've planned like destination races events. So we have like 35 Columbines going out to the Columbia Gorge Marathon in 2 weeks. And so they're, getting a bunch of different houses and it's just been some amazing friendships that have been formed, through this club, and then just outside of it have made some near and dear friends. And that's the Columbines are me. I'm like, I love them.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. That's the whole point of community, is making friends.
Yep.
Eileen and I met and became dear friends through a mutual friend. Nicole and I have become friends. Laurie and I have become friends, and I'm going to become friends with y'all now.
Well, and I feel like
Whether
for
you like it or
women,
not.
we're drawn to the community and like to run with people because it's more than about just the running. So
We
It's
solve
like a therapy session.
It's like we solve the world's problems
There's
out there.
There's
So-
a picture. What does that picture say that I shared on Facebook? Our running friends or therapists we can drink with? Something like that?
yeah, and running is much cheaper than therapy.
Right?
So, and these are just a handful of the groups. I know the Rocky Mountain Runners are in Boulder. Front Range Cross Country is sort of evergreen, golden. They're kind of all over.
Yeah, a lot of Front Range. And I did just want to mention it's FRXC.org, and then that'll get you to the Facebook page.
And then Ultra Dirt Divas is a little bit everywhere. We have people spread out. Skirt Sports is across the country. You can, with our Skirt Sisters, you can put out a call. Hey, I'm going to be in Detroit next weekend. Who wants to take me out for a run? Or I'm going to be in Maine for vacation. Who wants to go for a run? So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then the Columbines are
it's just
Front Range.
Columbines.org. And so, we have Facebook as well. And then once a woman joins, we have a message board. So kind of the same thing, like, I need 15 miles or, just whether it's trails or road, you can find someone to run anytime, anywhere as well.
And Silke's wearing a Trail Sisters buff. That's a new group. That's not necessarily a running group per se.
Yeah, it's a just a movement, and it has a blog. There's a bunch of female athlete contributors on it that write really interesting stories and advice and about life, about running, and it's just to empower women to get out there and be bold and courageous and supportive of one another.
Yeah, the blog posts are really inspiring and informative. I've read so many of them.
And they have great gear too.
Yeah, really cool.
I had my hat on in Atlanta a month ago or so and had a woman come up to me in the airport like, hey, I'm a Trail Sister too.
Well, it is really funny how, having your Trail Sisters, having the Skirt Sports, like I've connected with people on 14ers, like, oh, that's Skirt Sports, or, just your hat, your gear, it really helps you connect. So, but I want to thank you all for coming. And before we go, I wanted to, Nicole, you have a blog too, and a podcast that is not always running focused, but I want to, will you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, and I love the conversation today because it is about just connecting in general. And if you're out on the trail and you see someone wearing something that resonates with you, boom, automatic connection. In my world, it might be Skirt Sports as a company I started and know a lot about. And when I see people wearing it, I'm like, hey, cute skirt. And then eventually I go, yeah, I started that company.
How cool is that?
How cool is that? I know. You got to own it, right? But along the way, I also decided that I really thrive on inspiration from others. And I thought, well, if I thrive on this, then other people probably do too. So I want to share that inspiration. So I started a podcast called Run This World with Nicole DeBoom. And change in the world. And I have interviewed lots of, I don't know, around maybe episode 30, something like that. And they range from real people. It was funny when I said, oh, you're my first real people person on the show. She's like, what? Everyone else is not real? I'm like, well, actually, that came out really bad. You're awesome, too. But, I've interviewed Frank Shorter. He's a legend in running. Catherine Switzer, first person to run the Boston Marathon. Down to a woman who did our Running Start program last year, and she went from prison to 26.2 in a year and has changed her life and made all kinds of strides. And the theme, though, is that fitness does come into every interview I do, even if it's someone who started a food company like Justin of Justin's Nut Butter, or Brooke from Bhakti Chai, or whoever. Fitness and finding that centered place within themselves is important to every single person, and it influences what they do in business, what they do in life. So those stories are really inspirational, and I really have a lot of fun doing that. So thank you for giving me a little plug. So yeah, check it out.
I just had one thing I wanted to add. I know that Laurie is the host tonight, but I think we can't state enough what her role in the running community is, because Laurie is always there, running, pacing, volunteering, and being an inspiration and a help to everyone. So we can't state that enough.
Well, thank you. I mean, I feel like I've been given so much through the community, like it's my chance to give back. So I feel very lucky. So thank you all. Thank you, Kelly.
You guys are so great. I didn't even have to pipe in at all.
And Corey, thank you so much.
Such a support.
I know. She always is. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's a wrap.
Awesome.